Capes and Conundrums. Santiago smirks as he sees the traps get sprung expertly. He wasn't the one fighting this time, so he had his feet up, some corn chips and salsa, and a smirk on his face as he watches Deathstroke ambush the Batwomen. "Hello, detectives!" Deathstroke taunts them before rushing the nearest one. The recent clues had led them all over the place, and this time, instead of them pointing the way to the arena, it had people going back and forth through multiple ambush points. There's a panic as none of the girls were expecting Deathstroke, and the woman he grabbed is thrown to a wall where bars shoot out and imprison her in an instant. He then outright blurs as he goes to attack the next one, and a Sonier tackles him from the side. Even a fully grown Sonier is lighter and smaller than a fully grown human. A teenager trying to knock down a heavily armed, armored, and very densely muscled soldier playing the part of Deathstroke was like a house cat trying to pin a tiger. He slowly turns to regard the crumpled form and then steps over the stunned girl, clearly dismissing the teen as any form of threat. His right hand snaps up and parries an invisible blow from his blind spot and slowly turns to regard the woman in power armor slowly fading into view. Almost adequate. The Sonier fading into view looks shocked through the mask. She was one of the more interesting ones in that she was dressed more like Batman Beyond than Batman. There's a short power play as the Sonier tries to force him back a little, and Deathstroke teaches the folly of overcommitting. He suddenly gives and turns the fight into a throw that she barely rights herself in midair and lands on the far wall before launching off. The only visible eye on Deathstroke narrows, and he slowly reaches behind his back to grab something. The Batwoman beyond nearly dives onto him, and a quarterstaff extends from a small cylinder in Deathstroke's grip, and he levers the rocket-powered flyer to slam her on the ground. She rolls with it, and her claws gauge into the floor, and she pivots before launching herself at him like a beast. The staff is in the way as a barrier, and she finds herself thrown again, and as she tumbles, the weapon comes down. There's a roll, and the Sonier pounces again. The staff comes down between her ears, but there's only a slight grunt as the armor proves itself strong enough to withstand that blow. She goes for his legs and then gets literally stomped on in return. She struggles for a few moments against the armored boot of Deathstroke and is only allowed out when he shifts her away. That your allies are so afraid to fight me speaks volumes, though I wonder if the topic is their cowardice or your cruelty. The hint delivered in a suitably backhanded manner. Deathstroke collapses the staff and slowly advances on the Batwoman beyond as she rises up. He then dodges a thrown weapon from behind. Oh, so they do have a spine? Everything then descends into a complete clusterfuck as the Batwoman beyond charges and then does not commit completely, and he's dogpiled by about 10 Sonier in different kinds of Batwomen outfits, including 3 in some kind of power armor. There's a sudden burst of light and sound, and most of the Sonier scream, even as Deathstroke launches himself out of the pile. He lands easily and faces the pile as they collect themselves. And there is the downfall of too many at once. You won't get away with, wait, why are we fighting him? One of the Sonier, in what appears to be pajamas rather than a proper outfit, begins to protest. Santiago grabs a communicator and activates an app. Hello there. This is the man who plays Bane. The story is that you've been trying to solve a mysterious crime. During the legwork of following the clues, you have been intercepted and attacked by a very powerful and highly priced mercenary known as Deathstroke the Terminator. Your goals are to either escape him or drive him off. Oh, scatter, the pajama girl calls out, and the group scatters, like roaches under the light. Deathstroke states with no indication that he heard anything Santiago said. The first girl that tries to run out screams as she's thrown back into the room. Deathstroke's presence indicates some slight amount of satisfaction. Did you think it would be that easy? Numerous Slade bots walk into the room. Did you think that I would simply allow myself to be outnumbered? Oh no, you must work if you wish to escape. Each of the exits to the room is blocked by another bot, and the girls look around. The Batwoman beyond rallies first. Damn it, he's right. Slam through one of them and break the blockade. The crowd rushes one of the exits, not noticing that there are another 4 ways out of the room that are unguarded. The Slade bots, actually soldiers in disguise, converge and force back all the Batwomen. They take stock of the situation, and then Batwoman Beyond throws a batarang at an unguarded window. Go fly! At her command, all but 3 of the room rush out and escape. There are cheers from several points around the city as the 3 Batwomen taking this seriously space out to focus on Deathstroke fully. Batwoman Beyond, a ninja Batwoman also known as Shadowflight, and an armored Batwoman out of the games all space out around him. No matter which way Deathstroke turns, 2 of them are out of sight. Very well, he says, and he extends the staff again. Come. Ninja starts with a smoke bomb that blocks his already halved field of vision. It does nothing to prevent Deathstroke from hearing them, and he ducks under a swing from Armor, who then extends her wing to smack him backwards. The armor they're both wearing makes a very audible smacking sound even as he has to quickly adjust himself to dodge the numerous punches with extended wings, and he jumps at her to engage before he had to back off and avoid something thrown at him so hard that it screams through the air. Even if it hits the armor and doesn't penetrate the skin, it's going to numb him for a little bit. The crunching sound of the batarang embedding itself into the wall beyond tells him just how smart that dodge was. His next rush back in uses the staff and slams into the stomach of Armor, and he levers her between him and the ninja Batwoman before he throws Armor and rushes towards Batwoman Beyond. His staff slams a trinity of batarangs out of the air, and she melts to the side and swipes at him with reinforced claws, and he grunts a little as his armor has some slight rents in it. Vicious. What? Beyond asks before his knee meets her chin and she staggers back. He has just enough time to dive back to avoid Armor pouncing onto him, and rolls up in time to get his guard up and deflects a punch from Ninja. You're getting better. He notes, then he slams his fist into her stomach. I will have to stop holding back. He gives her 2 more punches in the gut, and then hurls Ninja into Armor and uses it as a distraction as he weaves around the batarangs from beyond, and he gives a spin kick to get around Ninja and kick Armor in the side of the head. They land in a pile together, and he then charges at Beyond, throws several batarangs he swiped from Ninja, and as Beyond ducks them, he jumps up and comes down with his staff and then takes numerous swings as she frantically does everything she can to deflect the repeated staff swings. He then drives a knee into her gut just as Armor and Ninja gather themselves and charge. 1 high, 1 low, and he goes between them with a dive. They try to get him and tangle up in each other as he rolls with the landing and rises up to charge back at the pile, and "Game!" Beyond shouts. I call game. My wings are aching and I can't keep going. And the others? Deathstroke asks as Armor and Ninja separate and rise on exhausted feet. We're done, Armor says, and Deathstroke turns to Ninja. She shakes her head. I'm done. Holy crap, that was so different from fighting Bane. Of course, Bane is a brute. I am skilled, Deathstroke says before he pulls out a grappling line and points it at the ceiling. He's gone in seconds. Then someone else entirely drops down in civilian wear. Come on, let's get you 3 to a medic to make sure you're not too badly hurt. Wait, I know you, Shadowflight states as she pulls off the mask. I'm Mr. White. I'm also one of several lawyers stationed at this outpost, he says with a grin. Isn't your first name Robin? Shadowflight asks in an amused tone. You've already made this joke miss, Robin states. The grin is gone, and he's clearly annoyed. Oh, come on, Boy Wonder. You'd look great in the shorts. She teases him, and he groans in disgust. So does this mean that Slade won in Teen Titans? Got Robin to be his heir? Armor asks, taking off the helmet and giggling before flinching. "Lady, perhaps you shouldn't make yourself laugh when you have bruised ribs?" Robin asks, even as a wall opens and several men with gurneys rush out to make sure that everyone's in good health. "Surprised you didn't give us a threat about not calling the doctors," Armor says, and Robin scoffs. "I'm a lawyer. I know better, usually," he says before correcting himself. "Anyways, thank you for participating in today's trials, and hopefully, when we get our training programs off the ground, you will sign up for the advanced lessons. You three certainly have a good idea on how to do this and just need a bit of polish to actually push me." "Huh. Well, they did better with you than they did with me, little man," Santiago says over the intercom as he takes a noisy bite of his corn chips, and there's an audible sigh from Robin. "Perhaps if you didn't scare them off like that?" Robin asks, and Santiago snorts before putting down the bowl and walking to the side of the room to a series of podiums where there are numerous Kutha coins embedded in with different codes on them. Each podium is linked to a different part of the city, and each coin gets more specific. "And where is the... Here we go. Location Beta 5. He puts his hand on the Kutha coin and channels Axiom into it. He's suddenly in another room entirely, and there is only one podium and one coin embedded in it. He then turns around, walks out, and then walks right up Robin White and towers over the shorter man. "Something like that, you oversized idiot," Robin says, pushing him a few steps away, and Santiago snorts. "I looked over those plans you were going to send out." "Oh?" Santiago asks as he watches the girls get some quick Axiom treatment, and they're minutes away at most from being fully healthy. It's a hell of a move to try and grant an entire species a culture. Granted, leaning so heavily into what they're building here and focusing on architecture first is interesting. But you're missing things like legends and myths and, Robin starts to say, before trailing off and re-examining the situation he's in. "Oh. Yes, oh," Santiago says. "On to topics I can have some more helpful contributions," Robin says, and Santiago lets out a huff of amusement. "Shut it. Anyways, it should be very easy to get a lot of agility training up if we can get the technology used in a place like Defenestration Nation and build obstacle courses with that tech. We'll be able to make a lot of use of that ourselves. If we can go full ninja warrior with no risk of actually getting hurt, then we can up our own training," Santiago says. "True. Now, so your lawyers are able to really fight too? That's so cool. Is he like Daredevil and can hear shapes like Sonir can?" Shadowflight asks after she's let go by the medics and rushes up to them in excitement. No, I got past the bar exam by studying while traveling through cruel space. 4 months of manic studying can get a lot done," Robin says. "And my ears aren't that good. Good enough to fight with one eye closed and in the middle of a smokescreen. Well, yes. Maybe we should get you in tight red leather," Santiago muses, and Shadowflight lets out a appreciative ooze of interest. No, I'm wearing casual clothing, a suit, armor, or nothing at all," Robin says, and then stops as his mind catches up to his mouth. "Well, what a coincidence. I happen to have nothing here with me. Why don't we see how you look in that?" Shadowflight immediately says, and Santiago slaps a hand over his mouth and turns away while shaking with suppressed laughter. He holds up his other hand in a fist to Shadowflight, and she pounds it even as Robin gives out a sigh of frustration to the amusement of both of them. "Oh, damn it. At least I'm only setting myself up for a joke rather than litigation."